Back to Lohmann. Lohmann on the left. 2 in a minute. Around the body, Charlie Cameron. That's why. Look at that.
Lohmann from 30 and closing. He goals. Lohmann's kicked 3 in a grand final in the first half. Back to Hipwood. He's a left footer, remember. Gets back on that left now. Lines them up. It's coming back. How did he kick that from there? They are on fire. They are up by 35 points. Off hands, maybe not, because Ashcroft has ensured that they continue to surge on. Danaher from a long way out. Rayner! Ashcroft. All the big names. Bailey to Danaher. Danaher, the final stamp on the day.
It's the Brisbane Lions Fancast with JB and Patrick for the last time, unless anything dramatic happens in the next couple of weeks or months. It is the last time for 2024, a season wrap, and all possible thanks to our good friends and sponsors for 2024, Crisp Communications and Hop On Brewery Tours. A big shout out and a big thank you to those guys for helping us keep the lights on and helping... Well, a little bit of financial support to help us host the podcast and give us a website. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a website, because that's what's happened. So, big shout out to those guys for their help throughout the year, and make sure you do check them out. Of course, Christmas time coming around, so maybe organising a brewery tour is the sort of thing that you could do at hoponbrewerytours.com.au. And maybe if you're thinking for 2025, God, I need a little bit more marketing for my business, well, that's where Abby and the team at Crisp Communications could help you out. Check them out at crispcoms.co. But let's...
Do you want to know a secret just before you go
do
on?
Yes.
I only visited the website for the first time last week. I completely hadn't thought about it. So, I mean, I don't need to look us up, but it was kind of like knowing your own phone number or whatever, which everyone actually does. So anyway, take it away.
All right, we're going to have a look at the last part of our season reviews. This is part 3 season review. We're going to have a look at the 4 finals games. We're going to have a quick trade wrap. Of course, we're going to have a chat about the girls who suffered a pretty decent loss to the Cats today down at GMHBA. We've got a couple of questions, and we're just going to chat about a couple of other things that I thought we might... want to have a peek at later on as we progress throughout the show as well. So, and another big shout out to everyone that has listened throughout the year and have sent messages, interacted, engaged, whether it be by social media, sending emails, chatting to us via Instagram, Twitter, whatever. It's been great, and it has been a pretty fruitful year. So we basically doubled our listeners from last year in terms of numbers and stuff. So really, really good stuff. And thanks everyone for getting on board and being supportive. It's been a hell of a lot of fun. So another year in the books, and we'll be back for 2025, because every year we've done this podcast, we've made a grand final. So it'd be pretty rude not to.
I did like it. Someone sort of brought up pretty wild time to start a podcast, guys.
Yeah, I know.
Sort of you're pretty correct there, aren't you? We didn't have any intentions. We just sort of felt like there was a bit of a gap in the market, and lo and behold, here we are. So sorry, everybody. But
not necessarily a gap in the market, but there's no such thing as too much content. I mean, if people are like me, it's just sort of like I want to get as much as I can, unless the weeks we lose, in which case I want to avoid it at all costs. So no, there's definitely people doing great things. Obviously, Dom and Fish from the Raw deal are at the peak of the mountain, and I actually caught up with those guys for a drink last week. So fantastic to get to know them a little bit better and have a chat with them.
How do you swing that?
Oh, just shoot them a message, and I've met Dom a couple of times here and there. They're honestly great blokes, and great to have a catch up with. And who knows, we might do something in the future together. That is
You're gonna you'll end up being the Raw deal with Brooksy and those two, and I'll be given the arse. So
no, mate, wouldn't
probably people wishing for that one. So
wouldn't do that to you. Wouldn't leave you left behind. And of course, they do fantastic work without any others. So, all right, let's just touch on the girls real quickly. They did go down to Geelong. Geelong were really, really good today. Their pressure was absolutely relentless. Georgie Prasparkas was absolutely huge. 20 disposals, 10 tackles, 10 clearances. absolutely dominated the midfield. We tried to pinch it late with a couple of late goals to Orla O'Dwyer and Evie Long, and Eleanor Harthill had a shot towards the end, but it was too little too late. Geelong were just all over us, and possibly the worst news of it all is Dax has gone out with a pretty hefty concussion, so she'll be missing next week as well. No doubt we'll have some cover for her there. We're pretty tall in that forward line with Tay Smith and Eleanor Harthill as it is, so we might have a bit of a shake-up there. But yeah, it's brings an end to our 7-game win streak, and I guess with bigger ramifications, it puts us a step backwards in that McClellan Trophy prize now. Hawthorn jumps ahead by 6 points, I think, so no bueno.
No, well, I think 2 points ahead, I think.
Well, I think the girls' games are worth 8 points in the McClellan Trophy table.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay.
So arbitrary, they're just worth double because there's less games.
Yeah, I think probably the shake-up is just we need them to lose and we need to win. So more than anything, so it doesn't really matter.
Basically, we can't afford to drop anymore, and it's similar to what happened last year as well. We dropped that game that we should have won against the Saints and slipped away from the trophy that year as well. But it's a combined team effort, and you could definitely argue.
Well, in hindsight, if the blokes didn't fuck up the GWS and Magpies game, then it'd be all good anyway. So
100%. But Orla O'Dwyer, good to have her back in the team, and she kicked a couple of really nice goals. Chucky Mullins was good. Jade Ellinger was really good today as well, and of course, my favourite, Belle Dawes. Conway battled Manfully, and God, the back six was under pressure all day. So they really had their work cut out for them. But hopefully bounce back next week, and we'll keep an eye on that, of course. And I'll try and keep you updated from things from our perspective with the girls across socials as well.
Yeah, we got slaughtered in the inside 50s, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like 40 entries.
Yeah, it was just absolutely just relentless. And Geelong were really good. For a team that made the prelim last year and probably underachieved, they lost so many close games this year and out of finals contention, they really had nothing to lose, and they played like a prelim final team today. So watch out for them again next season, because they'll be right back up there. All right, let's get into the season review, part 3, the best part, the finals, and what an absolute roller coaster this whole thing was. Starting with the elimination final against Carlton, and I was so nervous for this game because everywhere you looked, everywhere you heard, it was like, oh, Brisbane, easiest final of the first week. They're just going to absolutely wipe the floor with Carlton. They've got so many injuries. They can't be bringing back 6-8 players. Is Sam Doherty going to play? Brisbane's going to shit this in. And I was just like, no, can everyone just shut up, please? Because like they're going to be making wholesale changes. They're going to be swinging 6 to 8 in the end, and like who knows what impacts they're going to have. Is Sam Doherty going to come back? Is the emotional factor going to be too much? Is that going to get them over the line? There was just so much unknown with this game, and it was making me more nervous every day that went by. Lo and behold, Sam Doherty was named, and halfway through the second quarter, it was 60-0. So,
yeah, I think there was a collective. Everyone was right until they kind of weren't right. But you know me. I don't like Carlton.
I do know that about you.
Stand them, to be honest.
I do know that about you.
They really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't necessarily know why. I think it's probably a couple of games I've been to down here that have just been the right kind of awful.
Yep.
In terms of wins, losses, doesn't really matter. But they are a different breed of fan, I can tell you that. And when we were sitting 60-0, it was looking pretty fun, I've got to say. Pretty fun.
I'm sure there was
those good things. Those good things can't last the entirety of the game, because that would have been stupid. But there were some records that were left on the table that they could have done better, and it would have been funnier. But in hindsight, really, it was kind of a sign of things to come in terms of this final series being just a bit stupid,
especially on when games where we were involved.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, the other ones can, whatever. They were fine. There was some good games. Well, there was a good game on that weekend. But aside from that, we were just stupid. All final series. And arguably the Sydney game in the grand final was the one that was the most normal game.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Which is insane. But we kind of put together a pretty good first half, obviously, and then just sort of let them back in it a bit, which I think a lot of people were just trauma bonding really hard.
I mean, even at half-time when we were, 9-10 goals up, there wouldn't have been a person sitting in that Gabba that wasn't having flashbacks to opening round where we were 47 points up against Carlton or whatever it was and watching them bring it back. So, and they did. They started chipping away, and by the time it was all settled, it turned into a 5-goal win. But there were some stupid free kicks that padded that margin as well. So, all in all, it was probably, 7 goals in reality, expected score, whatever you want to put it down to. But there was no way they were coming back into that game. But they might have.
Yeah, I think we sort of just probably... we subbed Hipwood out pretty early on in that game, and I think we really just shut up shop and we're just sort of looking at it going, probably not going to happen. If it did, well, they would have been absolutely crucified, and justifiably so, but luckily enough it didn't, because I think internally within the club and the things that were being said around it were just a bit... They didn't really care. They weren't fretting the same way that us peasants were. So that might be a bit of an indication that they were just like, oh yeah, we won the game, and so what? Move on to the next week.
They made their sub pretty early on as well, like fairly early on into the second quarter, and they took out Kennedy and bring in Tom de Koning, and geez, didn't that make a huge amount of difference for them when they pulled that trigger?
Yeah, so Jack Payne went off injured as well.
Yeah, he went off with the knee. And the whole talk was like, oh, is he going to be all right with that knee for the next week?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. Shit, forgot about that, because he looked good.
Because, yeah, he was coming back.
He looked really good.
It was his first game back from the foot. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. And we didn't concede a point when he was on the field. He went off, De Koning came on, and Jack Payne sitting there 60 love against Carlton, like killing it. Okay, yeah, it's all coming back to me. I did say last week I would watch these games. This one I wasn't able to.
Yeah.
And I also didn't watch 3/4 of the other two because I just, what do you want from me? I watched that last quarter of both the semi and the prelim final about 8 times. So, wealth of knowledge in that last quarter, I can tell you that. I'm really setting myself up for failure. But yeah, it was a bit of a scrappy old game, that one. Like at times, like neither team, after we like completely blitzed them, was really playing like flowing good football. So it sort of this was what it was. George Hewitt ended up with a goal and 33 touches, and if it was a Brownlow count, he would have got no votes. So sorry. And on our end, I think Zorko was pretty good.
Zorko was huge. 611 metres gained, 29 touches for the Zork.
They didn't put any time into him, did they?
No.
Oh, maybe after halftime they put one of the Plague brothers to him.
Yeah, they put Ollie Hollands to him in the back half. Yeah, that's right. To try and keep him accountable. Oh, yeah. Rayner had a good game as well with 3 goals.
And Archie kind of started his slow burn into finals, I think, as well. So it'll be interesting to see how many goals Archie did kick over the course of the final series.
10.
Well, thanks for ruining it for me. I was going to go through game by game, but...
Well, there you go. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Cheers.
10. Yep.
Beautiful. So this one, I guess we put another tally in the got away with it column. 3rd week in a row. I'm surprised this is still here. There's a lot of shit written all over this, so I don't know what about. Apparently I have 1 page of a notepad, and that's all I write anything on at any time. So we'll notice a nice trend through this final series in terms of the goals and behinds. So
yeah, 14-15 to finish things off. Carlton were amazingly accurate to keep them in. 11 goals, 5.
Yeah, but is it a false economy? Probably. They were getting quite a lot of shots from good spots. And that's kind of like the GWS thing, and we'll come to them because obviously we played them next. But, when you just kind of having all of your set shots from that slice of pizza out the front,
yeah,
you shouldn't really be missing too many, whereas we do dumb things sometimes. So
that we do.
But yeah. But that game was a game. It was the least entertaining of all of the finals games, so let's move on, please.
All right, let's to arguably the most entertaining for depending on how you look at it. It really is these next three games we're going to chat about, there's plenty of entertainment factor in all of them for different reasons. But yes, the semi-final against the Giants down at NG Stadium, 44 points down halfway through the third quarter. Kai Lohmann, what the hell was he thinking? Has a set shot 15 metres out on a slight angle, goes around the corner, balks Lockie Whitfield, dances around and puts it through, and that was the start of the greatest finals comeback I've seen.
Well, it was the catalyst of the whole final series, really. Like, that's like, if you're going to look at it as, you know, this season in a film,
yep,
that's the beginning of the fucking final battle.
Yeah.
That absolute shithousery. So couldn't love it anymore. We were kind of lucky to be in the game, sort of, you know, through the second quarter. They got away from us, and then, I mean, we looked so bad. We looked so bad for like large stretches, and I think quite a lot of people can be forgiven for just almost checking out during the third quarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, you know, I don't think, you know, the vast majority are going to sit there and go down with a sinking ship like a good captain. But, yeah, I tell you what, I did not expect when he ran around the man on the mark for anything akin to that sort of nonsense to happen. But, yeah, he took one out of the ruck not too long after, and then things got a bit silly.
Did they what? And it was the game where the second half, well, Will Ashcroft was great across the whole game, but the second half in particular, you know, the stories coming out of Lockie Neal saying, Will looking at him going, I'm on here, so mate, just feed me the ball because I'm on one tonight. You know, he's breaking tackles. He's not just breaking tackles. He's got 6-7 GWS blokes on his back. He's still dishing out handballs. He would have got an amazing goal that Charlie ended up getting because he jammed it on his boot. It was going through and Charlie just made sure it went through, which was, the third or the fourth in the chain. Hipwood, Archie, Zorko chimed in with a couple of goals after getting sort of smashed early by Pete Ling in the first half.
The most impressive thing, in my opinion, was just that they stifled our momentum. Like, I know they didn't kill us, but, you know, when O'Halloran, Hogan, and then when Toby got the last one in the last quarter, you're thinking this is valiant but over.
Yeah, 31 points early in the fourth, and you can see when Toby puts that, just behind him is Harris Andrews, like hands on his head, he's on the ground. You can see in that moment he thinks it's all over, and who bloody didn't think it was all over at that stage? Yeah,
Brett Daniels definitely thought it was all over.
I don't know if have you had the chance to listen to the Mitch Robbo podcast with Jared Berry and Reece Matheson?
Yeah, I did. I find it hard that Mitch Robbo's the main liability in that podcast.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but Bez goes on to tell the story of Ryan Lester in that game and his little, I don't want that beer taste in my mouth. Oh, I'm not ready for that yet. Let's fucking go. And apparently that's what it took for some people, yeah.
Well, because Berry had like a really good final quarter, but it was worth noting.
Berry was one of the best on that game.
Yeah, I mean, and Lester looked fucking angry.
Yeah,
at times in that game, he looked, because, you know, a guy like him, you're not sure whether you're in the best 23 next year or whatever. But yeah, that was an odd little like fire starter.
Yeah,
it was a weird one. At what point in the game was that? 3/4 time or half time? Or was it just going back to centre bounce?
Yeah, I think he was making a play up the ground, if I remember Bez's story correctly. But yeah, I think it would have been in the third or the fourth quarter for sure.
There, I said earlier on when we sort of off air that one of my the best passages of play that was not a goal was this like ridiculous chain between McCluggage, Berry, Rayner, Dunkley, Danaher, all involved multiple times. Is when Rayner decided to like try and kill someone with his head, and then McCluggage balks too and goes to left foot and just doesn't quite make the distance, which was a damn shame because that goal kind of reminiscent of Luke Powers in the 2001 grand final. It almost would have been.
Yep.
Just, you know, inviting pressure and just like playing up the field. There's a couple actually like that in the Geelong game as well, but. That was my like best passage of play that wasn't there. And if anyone's got access to it, we did have the various different radio commentaries, but I quite liked the Nation commentary.
Okay.
I listened to all of them, and I think that one's the best one of them. I'll probably give my unpopular best one for the preliminary final. But if you get a chance to listen to them, do it, because they're always the kind of thing you just scrub through listening to the moments over and over again, and then you listen to dumb things and that sort of a thing. But yeah, Brett Daniels really cocked it up for him.
Yeah, well, he had the early, which is, all those full circle moments we've spoken about. Obviously, he was the bloke that sunk us in 2019, but he had an early 50-metre penalty against for giving it to Dunkley, and not the right bloke, and then he gave away another one because he made sure he didn't want to give it to the wrong bloke this time, took too long, 50-metre penalty, and then obviously tried to take the advantage, sprayed the shot off the deck, and if he sinks that, it's a different story. And all the talk this whole game, like especially the Channel 7 commentary, it's like, when are they going to move Payne off Jesse Hogan, because he's getting towed up here.
We can't get me started on this. I'll be as much a broken record if we go on about this, but I just, if you look at go and watch our review of this one if you want to hear me talking shit about David King, because that guy is an idiot. Zorko kind of got stitched up a little bit earlier by, was it Perryman?
Peatling.
Oh, sorry, Peatling. Peatling, Perryman, they're both virtually the same and apparently are worth about the same anyway. One plays for one team, one plays for another now, is that right?
Yeah, Perryman's Collingwood and Peatling's gone Adelaide without that coming.
Oh, cool. Good. Great. Zorko took him the other way and put him in unfamiliar positions, and that's what's good about having someone that has kicked a lot of goals over their career. But there were some moments, because we talked about Ashcroft obviously going into the midfield was a big one. Connor McKenna coming on was also a pretty important moment as well. So I think it might have been Logan Morris that went off.
Yep.
And he played McKenna kind of just plugged across half back and allowed Zorko to kind of move forward and sort of sneak. But yeah, wow. In terms of performers of the day, Archie was really good too, because he kept Whitfield to 4/5 of fuck all.
And if he had a kick straight, he would have been in for a 4 or 5 goal game. Especially early. Early on, he was definitely our best in the first half. Him and Berry were very good across the whole game.
Yeah, Berry had a few sometimes he tries to do a little bit too much, but a lot of the time it ended up working out as run and gun. And I said it at the time, if Finn Callaghan had played like Berry did, and there were times early on in the game, and even early on in the last quarter, where Finn Callaghan sort of turned Berry and ran away from him, and got plaudits, and it didn't really go the other way. The moment that sticks out is kind of going forward, and where he sharked the handball from Tom Green and went up the eye little. So that was great. And then obviously Joe Danaher at the end.
Danaher at the end. Another thing we should probably mention as well, like obviously in the 2 games during the home and away season where we played GWS, is Darcy Jones and his impact he was able to have on the game. We had Noah Answorth this time, and Darcy Jones had little to no effect on the game. He had a few moments, but certainly wasn't, absolutely burying us with some sneaky goals in the last quarter. So good to have that other defensive-minded player in the back six there as well. And Toby Green kicked 3 goals, but they were out of his butthole. So it's hard to really blame Starcevic too much for that one. I
think 2 of them. One was at stoppage, and 2 when he wasn't on him. So it's sort of you can't always. Well, what are you supposed to do? But Darcy Jones had 7 touches.
Yeah, there you go.
So going at 28%, so he wasn't linking with anybody unless it was a ghost that only he could see. And Answorth is not often a particularly high disposal player, but people just chipped away in that second half. It's hard to really, hard to look at it. But Joe Danaher with the 2 shots at the end is how the game's going to be remembered.
100%.
I think the Jasper Fletcher goal beforehand highlights everything that Hipwood does that doesn't get rated, and we might not see as much of that next year because he might be more of a target man. So we'll just have to wait and see. But pretty chaotic.
Yeah,
that game, I reckon.
Yeah, I know the moment you're speaking about where he burst through that, like he just attacked that ball. And I think, talking about listening to the various commentaries. And by the way, if anyone wants, footage of the grand final and the last quarters of the prelim and semi with different radio commentaries, let me know, because I've got them in Google Drives. The Triple M commentary of that, like Kate McCarthy was the one to point out Hipwood's attack on the ball in that moment to give the ball to Klug to get it across to Jasper Fletcher. Fantastic stuff. And then, yeah, obviously...
Well, it was a repeat effort as well, because he went for the ground ball and he caused Toby Green to turn the ball over as well, because his 7-metre wingspan wouldn't allow him to get through. So he just... Toby Green, one of the most experienced All-Australian captain, just hunked the ball forward and then went to Starcevic, who made good on it. So, yeah, it's important stuff. And, I mean, Fletcher takes his moments pretty bloody well, doesn't he?
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, watching back the final series, he just does the fundamentals and the basics really, really well. Like, as we've said, he rarely loses a one-on-one, and he just does the fundamentals really, really well. And it's why he never got dropped, even though he didn't have like a standout game probably across the whole season. Role player that just does his job and he's just a footy player that does the basics really, really well. So underrated Fletch, but you've said it before, he's easily going to be a 250 gamer.
He's not going to, like, a lot of people, they look at the theoretical best team going into next year, and he's, I've seen people put him as a sub, and it's just like, the dude's never coming out of the team, because I don't think that, the average footy fan understands what our wingers do. There's a reason why they don't get 30. They don't need to. It's not their job. It's not how they coach. It's not what their role is. They're like lower disposal, high impact. It's like a implied pressure. They're getting behind the ball. They're getting ahead of the ball. They're stretching players. They do a lot of weird things that even I don't really fully understand. But when you got someone whose fundamentals are so good, why would you ever want him out of the team?
Yeah.
You want your wingers to be consistent.
And if nothing else, he is consistent as they come. But yes, as you said, it will be remembered for Joe Danaher and his last 2 goals, one from the car park and the other, which, by the time he's kicked the last one, you think, oh, well, this one is a gimme, but it's Joe Danaher, so you never really know. But the contested mark was probably the most impressive thing about that last one, because Sam Taylor, it's the second one Sam Taylor's lost all year. A genuine one-on-one contest, and Joe just got him. And he was in no position to as well. He's on the wrong side.
He got caught ahead of the ball.
And back to it and everything, and just willed himself to get it done.
What do you reckon Joe Danaher's like on the old Alistair Lynch bench press, It was a fair shove in the chest, and, everything that any kind of key forward dragon that are all hovering around the media, they're all there. That's exactly what they would say to do. Technique perfect, free up the space and take the mark, and took the moment well.
Did he what?
Bit of a shame, really, but fair enough. And we rolled on.
We did.
How stupid that we rolled on, and we felt like we had some genuine momentum here.
Yeah, it was I didn't really know how to feel coming into this Geelong game, because like on paper the whole week leading up, I was like, oh, there's no way this can be as tough as the GWS game. Like, you look at the names, you look at the way they play, you look at what we just did. Like, yeah, we should win this, but also, Geelong in a prelim, I've seen that one before, and they've absolutely towed us up. God, did we, spend all our petrol tickets last week against GWS? We're going to go to the MCG, another week of travel. We're going to have some sore bodies. They've had the week off. It's like all these things coming into it. And then we find ourselves 25 points down in the second quarter, or the start of the third, before Max Holmes goes off for a lengthy massage. And that's when it turned.
Well, I mean, Fagan touched on it after the game, but playing virtually 2 training games across a sort of 6-week period, obviously not great finals, conditioning or seasoning, as it were, but we just went harder at the ball, and I mean, it was a good game. It was, in my opinion, the best game of the season. A lot of people's.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. Absolutely, and it's not hard to say why. Absolutely, and like Geelong got off to a cracking start, just couldn't put the score on the board. 0 goals 4 or something, and we managed to kick straight, thankfully, with Charlie Cameron marking the ball basically out of bounds. And yeah, as I said, once bloody Brian Myers just crossing the ball like Messi, kicking the belly of the ball from, the third row of the bottom tier, and it's just floating through. They were pulling some goals out of their ring.
I reckon one of the most bullshit ones was when Dangerfield got the clearance and was being tackled, kicked it into Mana's back, and then it bounced for him, and then he slimed it from outside 50 because everyone was anticipating the actual inside 50 kick. It was stuff like that where you're just like, man, what is going on here? And I think that's what made it such a good game, is that Geelong they were in it up to their eyeballs. It was heavy momentum swings, and it was good quality football as well. Yeah. And half time, man, we danced. That's where I know that it was brought up, but it was, there in real time to see where they just balls to the walls and went for it. So, Geelong, I suppose you said they were inaccurate to begin with, but yeah, they favourable stuff in that second quarter. So.
I thought, the umpiring was pretty good across basically the whole final series. There was a couple of calls here and there. And you could argue back at the GWS game, the Sam Taylor deliberate out of bounds. And once again, I'll say to you, look at Iden's possession before that and how he threw it. So, yeah, ipso facto. And the other thing I forgot to mention, Cam Rayner, how annoying was he in that GWS game? 3 free kicks to Himmelberg in the defensive 50, 2 in the last quarter when the game's right on the line.
Yeah, Himmelberg really just must have been rubbing him the wrong way because
obviously he was getting under his skin.
Yeah. I think that in the last quarter, the first one is there. The second one's not really super there, but,
they obviously had...
When you've done it 2 minutes before, what are you supposed to do? But, yeah, I remember people being somewhat critical of the umpiring in this game. I don't really remember.
No, I don't think there was...
Nothing sticks out to me.
Yeah. I think it evened out in the wash. I think there was a couple of questionable calls either way. So, yeah, no issues there. Easy to say when you're on the winner's side. So, Geelong fans may be feeling differently at this point in time. But, yeah, Ollie Henry obviously had a cracking game. One thing we did speak about leading into this game is that we thought Ryan Lester was definitely the man for Jeremy Cameron, and he absolutely delivered in spades on that. Yeah,
Cameron got his 2 goals. One was crumbing a stoppage, and the other one was just right place, right time. And, yeah, he had made impacts. Good players are always going to make an impact, but he didn't have the license to roam that he normally gets. He didn't kick 7 or 8 goals. So Ryan Lester's couple of Jeremy Cameron feathers in his hat, albeit the first game in the season was not a win, but he still did exceptionally well there as well.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see sort of in the last quarter when it came to crunch time, Jeremy Cameron just missed a set shot.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And a shot he would normally kick, but also he didn't seem to wheel out as much on that kick as well. You think he's going to wheel out to his left and slot it, because you've seen Jeremy Cameron do that 1,000 times. He seemed to run straight at the man on the mark and pulled it right. So I don't know if he had a weird change in technique or just feeling the pressure of the game. Doesn't seem like a Jeremy Cameron thing to do. Maybe he just doesn't kick them all, and that's the luck of the draw for him. But he had another flying shot on his right that it looks like it bounces through. Clearly doesn't. And then there's that Shannon Neal kick as well in the last quarter that looks like it's going through for all money. For some reason, there's not a single person on the line from either team. And then suddenly Joe Danaher comes from, I don't know, out from under the race, marks it on
Rosie,
the line,
yeah.
and passes, just plays on before anyone's got the chance to think about what's happened and potentially call it back for a score review. But yeah, Ollie Henry was amazing. Like Cam Rayner's last quarter, not just obviously the goal on the left, but the huge mark in the middle of the ground. Wilmot and his huge mark.
Wilmot's mark was so good.
And I think in the first or second quarter as well, Lohman had a huge hanger as well after Stengel butchered one.
I think, third quarter possibly, but I mean, who really That was probably the best mark.
Yeah.
But Wilmot's one's just so good in that photo of him kind of, I don't know, he's just like all limbs everywhere and the three juggler. Reyners is fun to watch because he does it off about 1.5 steps and, contested and nice and obviously set up that fantastic Zach Bailey moment. But let's not worry about that right at this juncture. Tom Stewart, good defending. Left his man, took a risk, and it worked.
It's an amazing tackle, but it was such a Zach Bailey moment as well because we'd seen it happen a few weeks before where Quaynor tackled him down and running into the 50 at the MCG.
I feel like any other player, it still would have happened.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And listening to the Triple M commentary on this one, you hear Isaac Smith saying no one gets away from Tom Stewart. Like he sticks a tackle and it stays stuck. So
I just like the sledgehammer tackle.
Yeah.
So that's my one. So unpopularly, I think the Triple M commentary of this last quarter is like just absolutely entertainment gold.
Yeah.
Like if BT and James Brayshaw commented like this in real life, it'd be a lot more fun. Firstly. It'd be not annoying and it would be exciting because they're having a good time. You can tell. If you haven't listened to the full quarter, just watch them in the box. It's pretty funny. And also Isaac Smith absolutely wilting.
Yeah.
Later on is one of my favorite moments of the year. He's just head down in his hands in his head. And it's just like, man, what is going on here? Like, and then through gritted teeth gives the correct sort of plaudits. So,
The other box, I was going to say box shot. That's not ideal. The box vision of Channel 7 in that last quarter as well. Luke Hodge, and I posted this on our Twitter. Like if you watch the last 2 minutes of the Channel 7 commentary box, Luke Hodge is me watching the footy. He's so he doesn't say a word. He's fidgety. He can't stand still. He turns away at certain points. And he's just not convinced it's over until it's actually over. And I was just like, wow, that's like watching me watch the footy. So that's very funny to watch as well. Because I could feel every moment of Luke Hodge in that. But yeah, obviously, Ollie Henry kicks one snap on the left, followed by a snap on the right. And probably the moment leading up to that, the Brad Close handball back to Cameron is amazing in that moment. I don't know how closely you've watched that before Ollie Henry kicks the goal, but it gets down into the forward pocket. Brad Close gets it. He does a look-away handball over the back of his head to Cameron, who gets it to Ollie Henry, who puts through the goal. And I thought, God, that's good. That and the O'Sheen Mullen kick when he's getting half-tackled on the left just to hit Manor up. I think it's Sean Manor, before the Ollie Henry first goal. Two really clutch moments from the Cats there. But as I was saying to you just before this game, before we started recording, Zach Bailey's kick to Charlie Cameron that leads to the Archie goal. That kick is so underrated.
It's like a 60-meter drop punt that just pierces. It takes 3 out of the game, and they also are raffling it. Either one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you have that where a kick is so good that it can go to 2 of your blokes and none of? I mean, we've seen that plenty of times, particularly in the kind of mid-2000 teens.
Yep.
But really good kick. Also, I want to do a shout out for the National Indigenous Radio Service commentary on this as well. It is also great.
Yeah.
Really good this last quarter. If you get a chance to listen to that, it's a lot of fun. Chris Johnson and Darryl White make appearances, which is good.
Ripper.
But there's a lot of love, and obviously, Cal Archie being an Indigenous boy having a big factor, and Charlie Cameron, they're well and truly up for it and having a good time. So that is also a really good listen. Highly recommended. Yeah, Ollie Henry, the back-to-backers. What a game.
Yeah, absolute. And the amount of people that said to me, the 2021 semi where we lost to the Bulldogs by a point and the grand final last year, it's like, oh, such a good game though. And I'm like, well, that's great. I'm sure it is. It still sucks and I'm not going to watch it again. I think
I've said that a few times this year. It's like, I'm sick of these game of the years
yep.
being ones that we can't properly watch, because I don't know, have you been able to watch the grand final from last year?
No, So what I said at the start of the year is the only thing that will probably get me to watch the grand final from last year is if we win this one. Because I think it'll all be part of the whole package. I still haven't watched it yet, and I don't know if I will, but
it's a good game. Watch it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely
It's a really good game.
I'm definitely more inclined to now because the wounds aren't as raw and deep because we've obviously got a premiership now to look back on. So I might, but I haven't yet. I've seen bits. I've seen the De Goey goal that many times it makes me spew. But yeah, maybe it's time.
Well, we're not doing a fucking watch along for that. I'll tell you what. That last passage, out of the stoppage, Ashcroft reading.
Yeah, just
giving it to Hipwood. Hipwood with the slightly suspect high fend on Humphrey, but shh, don't tell anyone. And then Rayner just. It's funny because I was critical of him taking a flying left foot shot about 6 weeks earlier. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Well, put that one side by side to this one, like the other weird shit that was going on in this game. And then the hilariosity of Reece Stanley at the end. Everything is perfect. It's so funny. And all of the reactions, the crowd noises are all exactly the ones that, him hitting the post from 10 meters out is so funny.
I'm sure he didn't find it funny, but the moment he came back up, obviously the front on contact free kick, he gets up, his hair's all disheveled, he looks like he's just woken from a drunken stupor, his hip's hurting or his leg or something, he's got a slight hobble to him. It's just that whole situation, and then it obviously ends up with him missing. If he had kicked it, there was still time for the Cats. Things would have had to go right. They would have had to get the stoppage, get a clean inside 15 mark and shot a goal, but as soon as he hit that post, you knew it was done.
What do you think about the Jared Waitleyism of, because the margin was 10 points, it might get kind of lost in the annals of time of close preliminary finals? I don't give a shit personally, but it's an interesting point. If Stanley had kicked that goal, but I think the narrative of it is more fun with that happening rather than it being what would have been a 5-point game at that point.
Yeah,
I can't.
so,
something like that. I don't know. What's 1 minus 6 plus 3?
There's enough of that.
I think I'm having a stroke.
Meanwhile,
would have been a 5-point game. I got it right. I should have just stuck with my intuition. So,
meanwhile, Sydney just fresh off a training drill against Port Adelaide, and here we are. We've battled it out on the MCG, and coming up against Swans in the grand final. And you thought, right, here we go again. We couldn't possibly. Surely, we've absolutely burnt all our petrol tickets here. We can't do this again. Another week on the road. The plus factor is, though, we've had a huge game experience in front of a massive crowd at the MCG. We've been here before grand final week, so have they, though. Went down a day early, the whole prep was different. We seemed so relaxed and calm, and confidence probably not the right word.
Well, basically me at the MCG for the game compared to you.
Yeah.
When you turned up with a delayed flight and, I don't know, you had half your child's arm hanging off you and stuff like that. So it's definitely there's a funny parallel which no one except us will understand, but we're the ones talking, so I can make that joke. But yeah, compared to last year where we were a bit hectic, and it's not to say Sydney were hectic coming down because they knew what to expect from 2 years
they
prior
just looked,
as well.
They looked tense.
Yeah.
They looked tense.
Yeah, Dane Rampy looks... I mean, I'm sure Dan Rampy's he seems like a nice guy. He seemed, tense, and he seemed it was almost like a bravado kind of... some people sort of put it shades of Adelaide back in 17.
Yeah.
Thankfully, no power stance going on, but equally as effective, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things because before the game, the bathroom lines at the MCG this year were so bad compared to last year. I don't even know what was going on, but everyone must have just been carrying heaps of water. I don't know. But I've just managed to get out from the dungeon just to sort of see the team about to run out. And I remember turning to my partner. I said, "How did they look when they ran out?" And she said they looked good. And I said, "Did they look like Darcy Moore insane good, or like regular good?" And she said regular good. So
yeah, that looks happy. Like Cam Rayner's face sticks with me when they're walking under the race and up to the ground. Like, he just seemed happy to be there, which is what you want.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to look at those. Yeah, even if you go back to like 2002, 2003, Buckley is absolute on the warpath, and Voss is just like, yeah. And I understand having won one, but to come back from the year previous to have that demeanor is really impressive, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. The game itself, you can listen to our 2-hour extravaganza on it if you want to hear too much about the games, but or the game. But like, moment for you that sticks out more than anything?
What, during gameplay or across the whole day?
Gameplay. What was your favorite game kind of moment?
I think when Archie streamed in and kicked that goal at the end of the third, that's when I knew. That's when I knew we would have to really fuck up to lose this game. There's plenty of fantastic moments, like Ashcroft's goal off the stoppage, Hipwood's ridiculous goal and pulling out the Aka celebration. There's plenty of moments, but I think the one that sticks out is when Archie puts that goal through, and I think, okay, we're done. We're a premiership team now.
Yeah, I think it was a collective sort of sigh of relief amidst the absolute bedlam.
Yeah.
That was happening, but yeah, very much so. I like the little moment where Cam Rayner took that kind of like contested mark in sort of the goal square-ish area, but just because there was that tiny little postage stamp of space where I saw his whole run up.
Yeah.
And it just, nothing was in my way, which is so weird in a game like that where there's arms and legs and phones and shit everywhere. So liked that a lot. But
Nick Blakey had a pretty good view of it as well. Because he didn't want to defend.
No. He had a pretty horrible game, I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, most of Sydney had a pretty horrible game. I just remember it was such a strange feeling throughout that game because I was so ready for a really tight up.
Something to happen.
I was really, like, the whole week leading up, I was like, this is going to be a tight one. Like, I don't know if I'm emotionally, mentally equipped to deal with another tight loss in a grand final. This is either going to be tight and Sydney's going to walk away with it, or if there's going to be a blowout, it's going to go to Sydney's way because we are just fatigued from one hell of a finals campaign. It never factored into my thinking that it was going to be a 10-goal win to the Brisbane Lions and it was going to be done through, at halftime. So it was
horrible spectacle for everybody else, but I don't care.
Yes.
I mean, the amount of people I've spoken to that are like, oh, it was a horrible grand final. I'm like, yeah, but
I liked it.
I mean, I liked it, and also we had to sit through like Geelong and Sydney and GWS and Richmond and all of that other
Port
stuff.
Geelong.
Yeah. We gave you last year to watch.
Yeah.
But, the vast majority of people are like, oh, fuck you last year. Collingwood won. You're like, yes, but also it's a good game.
Yeah. So I think it was just quite a strange feeling because I just, at no point, it was just sort of like watching it going, what is happening here? This is basically flawless footy. Yeah, Sydney aren't helping themselves at all. But this is basically flawless footy for 4 quarters. When do we ever see that, especially on the biggest stage? And I'd wound myself up for, especially considering the semi and the prelim, how emotionally exhausting they were. I was just geared up for another one of those. I didn't even get a warning on my watch for my heart rate.
Did you get any warnings in the other 2 games?
No.
No. Yeah. I mean,
so there was an element of disbelief and just sort of bemusement watching it all unfold, going, hold on, I didn't sign up for this. I'm glad I've got it, but I didn't sign up for it.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. I'm like, do you feel robbed?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Good. That's the objective correct answer. So
it was
and I think,
just like really strange, and it was nice because we sat there last year and watched the presentations and watched all the medals get handed out and all that sort of stuff. It was nice to be on the other side of that this year and, Will winning the...
literally on the other side of that. We couldn't even fucking see, could we?
Yeah.
Deus was facing entirely the wrong way, but it's one of life's great mysteries, but here we are.
But yeah, I mean, how many times have you watched the replay now, would you say?
Of the grand final?
Yeah.
I've probably watched the first quarter. I don't know, it's hard. Full through probably 4 times, I reckon.
Yeah.
And then I've watched because we've got every commentary under the sun. I just you find your moments. I mean, what's the point in watching Luke Parker kick 3 goals? I'm not. Well,
that's it.
That.
I've watched the full replay. Yeah, probably 4-5 times, and I've watched the second and third quarters. I don't know how many times. At least 10 to 15 times of the second and third quarters.
I think the first quarter is great because it's an actual football game, but that's great in hindsight because we know we've absolutely destroyed them. So there's no fear or anxiety around that to be like, oh, well, But you could just tell there was a gulf in class. Sydney's disposal was not there. Even our missed kicks and slight execution errors were going our way. And everything that they were doing that were unpressured kicks and how often do you see Goulden and the Chad and stuff like that miss?
Yeah, absolutely.
Miss kicks inside 50 and make horrible decisions and
Papley in the middle of the ground, literally not knowing what to do with it and just sort of throwing it to himself and batting it, ends up in a Brizzy goal.
But all in all, yeah, I mean, it's not a classic grand final, but it's classic because we destroyed them, and I don't think that you could begrudge any Lions fan or Bears fan or anti-Sydney fan to, enjoy the hell out of that game. Yeah,
and I think that the stuff that the neutrals got out of it, and I say it again, listening to Nathan Buckley talk about Oscar McInerney is probably one of my favourite things. The more I hear and see about Oscar McInerney and his behaviour, I guess, in the week leading up and during the game and after the game and the interviews he did, it's just so
He's
good.
A weird guy, I tell you what.
He is weird, but fuck, he's a good bloke.
He's our weird guy, but I suppose it's not you're not ashamed of a weird guy. I'm pretty weird. You're definitely weird.
It's good to be weird.
So yeah. But
what a man. And for Nathan Buckley to sit there and go I want to meet him, I want to shake his hand and just say, fucking, I'm so proud of you. It's just good. And then you hear throughout the week that Fags has given him a premiership medal. He got an extra one. So he got a premiership medal and the Jock McHale medal. So the premiership medal he made sure he gave to Oscar in the final group meeting and stuff. And it's so good.
It almost could have been the case of how many medals could he have had having not played?
Yeah, I know.
He almost could have been given Ashcroft's, could have been given, either one of the co-captains because they both got Barassi. These Tom Barras medals. Imagine a horrible world we would live in where that was the medal that was given out. Horrifying. But yeah, I think the immortal picture, Fagan and Lee Matthews, we've talked about that,
That is my favourite thing ever.
And it just encapsulates sort of the club and, the kind of rigorous, I hate using the term journey, but it kind of fits. The journey to get from sort of 2 full rebuilds,
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's really special. And I said that I thought it was special at the time, but it's really special to have the level of togetherness between the 2 coaches over different generations, So it's good. It's very good.
It's better than good.
And so we won.
We did. We've run the league. We'll have that weird sort of yucky gold logo on the jumper next year.
Will we?
Yeah. Reigning premiers get that gold logo that isn't quite gold.
Right. Because I noticed, I thought Collingwood just were allowed to do whatever kind of insane shit they... Hold on. Speaking of Collingwood, did you hear the Dan Houston interview?
Yes. Good, huh?
Yeah. Can't wait to put on the black and white for the first time.
Yeah.
If you just, rewind. How many weeks was he suspended? 4 weeks?
5 he got, didn't he?
Yeah, whenever back when the showdown happened and
Yeah.
him wearing the prison bars, may have ended himself in prison for. I mean, let's be honest. Rankin probably had it coming, particularly after the Starcevich incident. But let's not go into that here. Let's not be the mediators of intention.
No. So
anyone watching on YouTube can see the big smile on my face because I'm taking the piss completely.
All right, well, that brings an end to the reviews. It's been a lot of fun, especially the last couple, where we got to talk more about the winning. And then we look ahead to 2025. We have had the trade period. That's all done and dusted. The key moves, obviously, Murray Davis out, Stewie Dew in, Danny Daly retained. Out goes Harry Sharp. In comes a shitload of picks to help us get Levi Ashcroft and Sam Marshall. Dev Robinson is sticking around, is probably the surprise packet of the trade period. I felt for sure he was gone last year. Felt for sure he was gone this year. And Jackson Pryor is sort of in a holding pattern at the moment. It'll be wait to see what happens with draft, how many list spots we got available, and then it's sort of have a chat to Jackson Pryor about a contract, maybe another year, or go to Essendon as a DFA. And then the others like Darcy Craven and Luke Beacon as well that we might throw a year to. Yeah,
I think Beacon could get a year. It's because they have to have as many list spots opened as picks or some insane nonsense like that, right? Yeah. So you kind of run the risk of like having delisted players to then relist them. It's something we used to do way back when, but I mean, it's the sort of thing, if you're going to throw heaps of picks at obviously your academy and your father's sons, are you really going to go like, and don't quote me on Lachie Neale's pick because it was like fucking 500 or something. But like, are you really going to be like, we'll take pick 70?
Yeah.
Or are you going to take Jackson Pryor?
Well, that's it.
Probably would be better to take Jackson Pryor, but you never know. Pick 70 could be the next Jake Barrett.
Could be. Well, infamously, Lawson Humphrey was that pick 70 or whatever that Geelong was haggling over. So, you never know. You never know. So, but I think more than likely, if they've still got picks left over, they'll offer them to those guys. If not, they would have delisted them by now. So, I think it's definitely a wait and see, and then play on from there. The other thing I sort of wanted to have a chat about, and Sam Day, it looks like he's basically locked in as a DFA to come to Brisbane as a backup and probably play a couple of games next year and sort of work in tandem with Henry Smith as he continues to develop as we look ahead to a bigger fish next year.
Bigger fish? Oh, right, to have in the team. Yes. I thought you meant like next year is a bigger fish than this year, and man, you're really putting a lot of fish points in 2025.
So the other thing I want to have a chat about is probably a group of 4 or 5 players that did play a good portion of games this year that certainly could have played finals given the right circumstances, and certainly played a big part in our season, and that's your Bruce Reveals, your Shadow Brains, Dara Joyce. Sharpie played a couple of games here and there. Is that stuff possible without those guys? Especially Dara Joyce. Like, he held the fort when we literally had no one else. Came back early from a facial fracture to hold down our back line. And then as soon as Jack Payne's ready, it's sort of like, thanks for your service. You won't be playing finals games, but you never know. Be ready just in case. His is a story that is going to go a little bit unnoticed, I think, Dara Joyce.
Yeah, I mean, but there's no... Just look at Darcy Fort and what the possibility can be, you know? Like, that could happen to anyone. It could happen at any club at any sort of time, you know? Like, even go back to Richmond in 19 where old mate Rance went down. No, like Rance went down in round 1 with an ACL and then didn't play again. It's like... You know, like Vlosten was a good player and stuff like that, but they didn't become kind of the really excellent players that they were unless Rance isn't there. So not to say that we want players going down with injuries and shit like that, but it's more just No, we probably don't get there without Reveal. We probably don't win against Sydney without Brain and without Joyce chipping away. Like it allowed things not to be rushed. Payne to not be rushed. And I know Payne ended up with a different sort of injury in finals, but that was sort of an accident. And I think it says a lot as to how happy these guys were for the team. It says a lot about the team, and it's the people and stuff like that. It's all of the intangibles and the relationship building and the stuff that needed to be really, like, the negativity of it needed to be just completely pulled up root and stem at the start of 2017, and putting people in the right positions and putting players in the right positions and putting authority figures or mentors and stuff like that in the right places is exactly the sorts of things that you need for a team to function like this. So I think it's all pretty relative, and it's like they were happy. Joyce was super happy for McKenna and the little Irish contingent.
Yep.
I know Madden's gone back to Ireland now, but like they were all super happy with it, and I think it's what being part of a team is. Yeah,
no, you're not wrong at all. But it's just Shadow and stuff. Their ability to play the role for the team at the right time, and as you said, he's probably his best game against Sydney, especially in that last quarter when Harris is out. He takes those intercept marks and gets us over the line, and eventually found himself out of the team because we needed a little bit more defensive accountability down there. But it's just good to get experience.
Even Noah Answorth, man, like he's been sort of nowhere near the first team really for a couple of seasons.
Yep.
He's been there or thereabouts, but like for him to have such a pivotal role, and his game against Geelong was really fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good, and it says a lot. It says a lot. It says a lot about the back six, but I mean, someone called it sort of heading into finals in a question. They're like, we need to pick a back group and stick with them in finals because we're having a bit of choppy changey stuff going on.
Yeah, and
they did, and it was a really good back 6 or 7. So, I think hopefully next year there's. I mean, I'm a fan of rotating and horses for courses and stuff like that. I know it's hard on grand final day when they only give medals to the players that played, but surely there's not too long where that's.
No, and I know that each club does something for the entire squad, like a ring or something. So there will be something for all of those guys. All right, well, let's get into some questions. I was going to try, and I'm changed my mind at the last moment. I was going to try and do like a starting lineup for next year, or who comes.
No, don't do that.
Who comes in for Coleman and all that sort of gears. We'll leave that for 2025 because give us enough time to think about it. All right, so let's get into some questions. Ross on Instagram, Melbourne media already forgotten we are premiers. Seems like every other team is a premiership favourite for next year. Collingwood, Geelong with their pickups, Hawthorn obviously. And then goes on to say, thoughts on Sam Day. I think he's a good temp solution. If he manages to play okay, be there in finals, how hungry will he be? And I think you're right, Ross. I think he will be a good temporary solution. I think he's a good backup. He doesn't get outmarked very often. He's reliable. He's reliable set shot at goal. Plays the second ruck. He's not Joe Danaher, obviously. And for a bloke who's not tasted a lick of finals, you'd have to hope he's hungry should he get called upon, if needed.
Yeah, I admit I probably wouldn't be able to pick Sam Day out. I know there's been a funny thing where I've been calling Will Day Sam Day, and now I mean, I've heard some stuff, some Suns fans or just general footy fans. I don't know if there's anyone who's actually a Suns fan, but they think he's good. He's just had trouble staying on the field with injuries and stuff like that. And
I remember.
If you look at,
do you remember when he dislocated his hip against us in a preseason game 5-6 years ago? Probably even longer. It was gross.
No, and I think I'm happy not remembering.
Yeah, it was a while ago, and dislocated hip. It was ugh. Yeah. Anyway, play on.
Yeah. I like bad injuries. Do you remember that? Is his name like Broomfield or Broomhead or something like that?
Yeah.
The Collingwood dude that snapped his shin around the post.
Yep.
That was a good one.
Yeah, there's been a couple of gross ones in our time, eh?
But yeah, I don't know too much about him, but I've heard that he's struggled to get on the field, but he's been largely pretty good. And if you look at like McCarthy, Danaher himself, some others, a bit of the old magic bull shark infested fucking Brisbane River water really sorts the men from the boys, I feel like it. But yes, he'll be hungry if he gets anywhere near finals. But we'll wait and see, Would he be in my best 22? Don't know. Haven't thought about it.
No.
We literally vetoed that just then in real time about 2 minutes ago. So,
all right. Ben says, will Ashcroft usurp Lachie Neale as our number one midfielder next year?
Not yet.
Nah, not yet.
But also, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. We might have two.
What do you do? Have fun.
Yeah.
Like, have fun tagging both of them.
Yeah. It's not a bad problem to have, that's for sure. But yeah, I still think he's another year at least away from really taking that step. Ziggy. He says, thanks for everything this year and last year. Listening's provided a lot of us with an outlet for Lions discussion. He lives in Sydney, so doesn't get to do that a whole lot. He says, last question, and you're going to love this one. What's your Nuffy predictions for next year's top 8?
Like just random stuff or the full top 8?
I don't know. It's left it open to interpretation. Nuffy predictions for next year's top 8.
Collingwood don't make it.
Sure.
Do I need to do more?
No, I think that's fine. I think Freo will make it their way in. I don't think Hawthorn's going to go as well as people think.
No, because they'll have eyeballs on them. Who else is in this competition? I can see GWS sliding a little bit as well.
They lost a lot, didn't they? They lost a few players in trade period and free agency.
They lost glue players.
They lost depth players, yeah.
I can see Sydney Port, GWS, Hawthorn sliding. It could be a big shake-up, I reckon.
Could be.
I mean, I basically have just listed most of the competition to not make the 8.
Well, it's like,
so,
look how fucking close it was this year. Like,
yeah. Like, you could have Melbourne, Gold Coast, Adelaide, Fremantle, all 4 of them come in, and then Port, Carlton, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, Port.
Is Cripps? He normally has like 2 good seasons and then one like shit season, so he could have a bad season next year.
Yeah, maybe.
A bit like Lachie Neale.
I think there's maybe a few teams you can say definitely won't. West Coast, North, and Richmond, you can say definitely won't make the 8, and then everything else is like a real gamble.
So what's your Nuffy pick, dude?
Hawthorn finished just outside the 8.
I reckon I'm going to go, this will be if this happens, and I want a medal. Carlton and Collingwood to draw, costing them both top 8.
I like that. That's a tune we can all dance to.
Well, we'll get to play the song.
Yes.
Which is possibly the best theme song of all time. Yeah, I like that one. I mean, it's entirely pointless, but I liked it.
All right.
Thanks, Zig.
Over to Twitter now. Miller time. Thanks for the year, boys. Really enjoyed listening. Oddly enough, enjoyed it more after a loss. Listening to us dissect the losses is strangely cathartic. All right. Well, Miller time. Sure. He says after.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, the catharsis of I do get it.
Yeah.
But yeah. No.
He says, after chasing the premiership all these years, did you at any point considering doing a Joe and retiring the podcast on a high?
No, because I like talking to Brooksy like at least once a week for 6 months.
Yeah.
So.
No, we'll be back.
It's a good little slice of friendship.
Yeah, we'll be back Miller time. Don't you worry about that. Martin, should the Lions replace Joe with a ruck who can go forward like Darcy Ford or Henry Smith, or play someone forward and let big Oscar ruck 100% game time? I think that's basically impossible, Martin. I
really spat my water everywhere. Just the idea of Oscar rucking 100% of the time forever.
That's
like 100% of all time.
Yes. No, I think Smith will be the project for next year. I think Henry Smith will be the project piece, and you'll see him in the team more often than not. Even when he's not performing, it is going to be a case of we're going to persist with this guy. He will need chop outs, and that's where Sam Day will be a guy that comes into the team, but will largely pay a VFL. That's the way I see it playing out. Who knows? Darcy Gardner could be the option. Who the hell knows what Fags is going to do? Supersonic says, thanks for everything from this year from an Irish Lions fan. Great way to keep up to date with all things about the club. On to the girls.
Is he actually in Ireland, or is he?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, shit, nice.
No question at the end of it, just a bit of a thanks, and looking forward to watching the girls hopefully cap off an unbelievable year. And then Peter, with a bit of tongue-in-cheek here, do we head to Vegas again in the off-season? It can be our high-altitude training.
Go to Colombia instead.
Yeah, nothing bad's ever happened there.
I'm just trying to think of which were like the altitude South American places.
Oh, just up at the Andes? Yeah, sure.
Why not?
No, I would imagine there would have been a chat at the end of this year going, hey, in your off-season, just...
Don't do what GWS did.
I mean, obviously that, and we're not going to talk about that, but obviously that. Whatever you do, turn off the cloud, I guess. Everyone take a Nokia 3310 so it can't get sent back.
It also will survive bomb strikes and all sorts of stuff. But just pull your heads in and be reasonable, normal people. If you have to ask the question, it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, it's a tough ask for footy players, generally speaking.
Yeah. Well, we'll wait and see. Hopefully the start of the season isn't as terrible for it to rear a certain head. But
yeah.
Any more?
No, that is about it. Oh, there was one more actually from Nathan. Not a question.
I knew it. I don't know how I knew it, but I knew it.
There's one more for Nathan, and this is a fun one actually because he had a very similar experience. Not a question as such, but a big thank you for I first found you guys on the flight home from last year's grand final, and it was intriguing to hear someone had pretty much the exact experience as me, sitting in the last row of ground level, having elevated heart rate warnings, and hardly enjoying a second of the game. What a different experience this was this year. Thanks again. Looking forward to listening again next season. So that's a nice little way to finish things off. And thank you so much, Nathan, for listening. And I'm really sorry you had that experience last year because I know how awful it was.
Yeah, I had you bloody checking to see if I was alive or not. 2 fingers in the throat. I was thinking for next year, should we do a tipping competition? Because I talk a lot of shit, and I don't tip.
Yep.
And I think I probably should.
Okay.
Because that way, when I beat everybody, I can be real smug about it. But I think we should do that because normally the main thing with tipping for me is forgetting. I feel like that's kind of impossible because I'll just do them on the Monday morning. Okay.
Weird time to be doing tips, but sure.
Yeah, well, I won't forget that time because I'll do them live.
Okay.
On air.
All right, well, we can do that. We'll organise a Brisbane Lions Fancast tipping competition for next year. I will make sure that gets done. I'm
not doing Supercoach, so that can get fucked.
Absolutely. Fantasy football can get fucked. If you're here for fantasy football, you're in the wrong place.
If you look at the old stats, it's gone so far from here. I unchecked AFL fantasy, and it made my life a much nicer place to be because you're not like, fucking can't even use Jared Lyon's name because I feel bad now, but it's not the metric of a good game.
No, I'm right there with you. No, but thank you everyone that has listened in throughout the year, whether it's been 5 minutes, every episode. Whether you're waiting for it on Monday to drop, whatever it is, your relationship with the show. Thank you so much for making this a fantastic thing to do each and every week. So it's been a hell of a lot of fun. We'll be back next year, and if you've got any suggestions for what you want to hear and see and stuff, make sure you reach out. Head to the website. The contact form is there, or any of our social medias. Just BL Fancast. We're on all of them. Also the Discord as well, which I'm horrible at checking. I'm sorry.
I'm not exactly keeping that super afloat either. That's a community-driven thing. So, yeah. I mean, we like it. We like interaction. In the off seasons a bit. We know my feelings on trade periods, but it'd be nice to take a bit of a break and just wear the shirt and be like, yeah, number one, sucked in everybody else.
Yeah, big shout out, speaking of shirts, James, the fellow that's made that premiership merch. That link is available at our website as well. So that's always amazing stuff that he's been doing. And yeah, everyone that's got in touch, sent through a question. It's been a hell of a lot of fun, of course. Hop on Brew Tours and Crisp Communications for being right behind us in 2024. And to you, Patrick, thank you so much for making yourself available every week to chat footy.
I'll always back up, even when I'm not popular or anything like that. I think I put the. I mean, we tried the Patreon this year and it didn't work, which is fine. But yeah, the videos are a good way to digest because you get to see all my little. You see our little interaction a little bit more, which can be kind of funny because.
And in this one, you can see because I've got the fan on above the lights. It's
you look like you're strobing really hard.
It's creating sort of a strobe effect in the background, which is obviously ideal.
I'll be in a new location next year, so we won't have the beautiful. I mean, it'll probably be the same, but things are in a little bit of flux with me, so I'll be moving down to south, even more south to Geelong, so I'll be there. Hopefully we get a game at Cardinia Park, which will be fun. So, change of location for me next year. So,
Ripper. Don't be a stranger, people. Feel free to reach out in any way, shape or form. I myself am looking forward to a bit of cricket. Huge test season coming up against India, so that'll be where my attention is over the summer. And of course, watching.
I don't mind cricket against India. Against a good team, cricket's good.
Yeah.
When we get like jilted with like Bangladesh or some shit, it's like, wow.
I hear. Until then, there's still a couple more weeks of the girls' season plus finals, so make sure you're getting right behind the girls. There's another game at Brighton Homes Arena this Sunday, 4 o'clock against the Swans. I might try and get down for that one. Take my little boy down for that, which would be fantastic because it's a great place to watch footy. And
English Premier League for me, as I've mentioned a few times. My team had their first loss of the season overnight, and they've had 2 draws and a loss, and they've had red cards in all of those fucking games. So
bloody umpires.
Yeah, well, the old video review, isn't it? It's what I hope they don't get in our game. I don't want on-field reviews of decisions happening in real time. That stuff can get out of here. Don't be sending my boy Saliba off the field. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, we've got stuff to do in the interim, and hopefully we come back refreshed. I'm already looking forward to the football next year, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it.
I hope so.
You get to drive.
I need a bit of a break, but I mean,
you'll get to drive all your friends and family insane, and not you, but you listening and you, Patrick.
Oh, I was like, what do you know about me and my friends and family? Like,
I know that it's a big part of my personality, as wrong as that is, and I know that people around close to me will be happy that footy season's over, so they can sort of have a person back in their life.
Yeah, I mean, that said, though, a shout out to my mum who listens every week. I'll have to probably start calling her more frequently, so I can't use the podcast as a faux interaction. So I'm sorry, Mum. I'll try and call you more over the off season.
All right, well there you go. That's out there in public domain.
That's fine. You live by the Joe, die by the Joe.
And we never heard from him again. All right, everyone. We'll see you in 2025.